I'm going to record. All right, welcome. You have found yourself here at the Schooling Doula 7 Points Prep workshop about how to brainstorm and structure your personal statement for your college application. I'm so glad that we could be here together. And if you're watching this after the fact, I'm so glad you're here too. This is going to be a really key piece in all the components of the application, putting forward who you are to colleges and universities, right? We talked in past workshops about the puzzle of you and all of the pieces that go together, and we don't want to leave out anything super important. And the personal statement is one way to make sure that you get in all those little things that you want a college or a university to know that isn't already in your transcript or in your recommendations or in your activities list, or it can be building on those things that you already have introduced, but all within the frame of those values that we identified through the initial workshop processes. And if you haven't gotten to do the workshops about the activities list and the common application, I commend those to you. And there are recordings of those available. And just let me know if you can't find the email or the content or the information about where those are. Again, I'm Brendan Ford with Schooling Doula and 7 Points Prep, and we're so glad that you're here today. A few things before we get started, or as we get started. This class is, there are two companion pieces. There's the set of slides that I'm going to be showing today that we'll probably get through most of, but they're there. They've got links, they've got notes, so that you could go back and look at them yourself and use them as tools when you're doing this work. Second, there is a workbook, like there was a workbook for the first sets, and the workbook is in the chat. I'm going to put it again in the chat right now, just in case anybody missed it. That was the workbook. And here are the slides. And so I'm going to invite you today, while we're here, to have access to that workbook. I understand that people might be en route, and so you can do that later as well. But I'm going to place those again in the chat because we've got somebody just joining. So welcome. Here's the something. That is the, they look like they both are the same thing. Oh, there we go. That was the slides. That was, here's the workbook. All right. Maybe I'm showing it to you. Yes, I am. Okay. So welcome. If you're just joining us, we're just getting started, and I've placed in the chat links to both the personal statement workshop workbook that we're going to be using for this workshop, and also the set of slides that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to try to get my way back to the slides. All right. And here we go. Is that, yeah, great. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is be able to have access to that workbook. And if you don't have access to the workbook, but you are in a place where you can have pen and paper, or phone and notes app, or computer and keyboard, you'll need that for this time. And if you're watching this as a recording later, please make sure that you have those things available to you, because we will be using this as a productive time to do a bunch of writing type things. Okay? All right. And if you're just joining, I've encouraged people to send me chats, both privately or publicly, or to unmute and share questions at any time. Let me know how you're doing, what's up for you. If you have anything that I should know about that's going on, let me know. And we will move forward. So again, you're here and we're talking about how to brainstorm and structure the personal statement. So as we're getting going, I invite you either privately or publicly in the chat to let me know if you're thinking about what kind of superpower you might like to have today, or what your actual superpower is if the what would like to have doesn't resonate with you. But let's just get our juices flowing. What superpower would we like to have today? I can imagine a superpower some of you might like to have. And what is your actual superpower? We were talking about this at lunch in my house, and my husband loves to try new recipes, so he was thinking that was his superpower. And I have a brainstorming superpower, but today I would really like, yeah, someone mentioned telepathy, and that we could all sort of be in the same place at the same time right now without having to travel or anything like that. That would be awesome. Anybody else have a superpower they want to share? All right. So, and here's another way to loosen up and get yourself writing. There's a concept maybe you've learned about in other contexts called morning pages. And it isn't morning where we are right now, but maybe it is morning where you are if you're watching this later. But let's call these our afternoon pages then. And it's just a way to get started writing when you're feeling stuck or you need to get into it. I invite you right now to, in your notes app, wherever you are writing, pen and paper, in your workbook, whatever you've got. Describe your day so far in as much detail as you can. I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes for doing this writing. Either describe your day in as much detail as you can, or what's present for you right now, or if neither of those resonates for you, what do you hope to get out of this workshop? Okay, so I'm going to set a timer for writing. Just go as much writing as you possibly can. Try not to lift the pen or the fingers from the keyboard or the finger from the notes. Okay, I'm actually going to move that to 3 minutes. Here we go. Any questions? All right, go. 3 minutes. Just try to go into as much detail as you can. Minute things. Got out of bed, what you ate, where you went, how you felt. You can always answer what's present for you right now in this moment if you're feeling stuck. Okay, and coming to a stopping place with that one. I invite you, if you'd like, either private or public in the chat, or unmute and share one line, one word from your quote unquote morning pages, something that you like or something that you hate, or something about breakfast, or something about lunch, or something about, yeah, anything you're willing to share. Okay, you can imagine what you would share if you were in a space to want to share. Yeah, okay, I'm hearing that some people are tired. It was a huge day for, I think, everybody on this call right now. Yeah, Tacoma has really bad traffic. Okay, so you could have written a whole thing about traffic, right? Great. So the thing about writing is that sometimes it can feel so big, right? Like with a college essay, it's like you've been hearing about it your whole life, and it's so scary and intimidating. And a lot of times it's just a matter of getting writing. And so if you're feeling stuck ever, you can, I really recommend old school pen to paper, and getting that out and just writing about your day so far, like a journal, or like any, just as much detail, your parents making their coffee, whatever it is, just get writing, describing your day, and that helps your brain and your writing self get started. So I keep going on here. That's our agenda for today, what we're going to be talking about. We've got an overview of the personal statement and how it fits in with the overall college application. In the first couple of workshops, we outlined the components of and the writing part, the personal statement, is one component of that. And it's your best chance to really tell them who you are. In many cases, you don't get a chance to interview with admissions officers. They don't get to hear your story except for through your writing, and also in the way that your teachers share about you and how you contribute, and through your activities list. And we worked on that in the first couple of workshops. And now this is our time to really think about the personal statement. So we're going to go into a little bit of depth about the purpose and the general genre of what it looks like to have a personal statement. We're going to go through the typical prompts within a common application. And then we're going to do some brainstorming exercises for about a half an hour or so. And then we're going to learn about two different structures for organizing your personal statement. One, the montage, and the other, the narrative. And then we're going to go through a sample of each of those kinds of essays from former students. And then we're going to briefly touch on how to select a topic and how to do the steps of an outline and then a draft. But I'm going to invite you to work with your counselor, if it's Sarah or if it's me, on the steps of getting feedback on your outline, getting feedback on your first drafts. So I don't want you to go too far down the path before you connect individually with one of us. And if you have done this kind of work at school, I invite you to consider the learning that we have today in addition to the work that you're doing at school, okay? And so because the essay that you've written in connection could be just exactly what's needed, but it also could be a piece of the puzzle or a piece of one of the essays. And I have done a lot of work with Ethan Sawyer, the college essay guy, and he and his team have a particular approach to writing the personal statement that I think is really fresh, and they've shown over 2 decades that it is incredibly effective for supporting students writing about themselves and showing who they are and the main pieces of themselves to colleges and universities in a way that is compelling and that ends up with acceptances. So I hope that you will take that seriously today and integrate it into what you've been learning in school. The personal statement is a very, very different kind of writing from what we typically write in English class, particularly in the classes that many of you are taking in junior and senior year and leading up to now, where you're learning about persuasive arguments, you're learning about research-based writing, you're learning about the 3 to 5 paragraph essay. The personal statement is all about sharing you with the college. It's about sharing your strengths. It's about sharing your values. It's about sharing your skills and your insights. It's about sharing what's special about you. If you're funny, your sense of humor, your authenticity, your vulnerability. They want to get to know who's really inside you, not just like all the stuff that you've done on your resume or your transcript, right? But what makes you tick, what makes you sad, what makes you happy, and who you are likely to be in the dorms, in classes, on the campus. Okay, so that's the big idea of what the personal statement is for. And it's a very casual genre of writing. It's not formal. It does need to have, correct spelling and punctuation and capitalization, but it does not have to be in any particular, you don't need to have a thesis, you don't need to have evidence and an argument in the same way as you would for a class assignment. Okay, so we're going to show a couple of examples in this session, but we also have links in one of the later slides to lots of different examples of personal statements that have been effective for you to get a sense of all the different ways that somebody might approach that. Okay, and so we're going to dig into the common application and what the prompts are on there. And I'm going to tell you from the beginning that number 7 at the bottom, that's in orange, is the most popular choice for people when they are choosing the common application prompt. And that's really what we're going to be basing this whole class around, is choosing that number 7. But it is informed by 1 through 6. So let's look at these. What are they really wanting to know about? Okay. Just getting a few things out of the way. All right. So these are the actual prompts, okay? So it asks in the first one about a background, identity, interest, or talent that's so meaningful that you believe your application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So remember, when we've been thinking about the puzzle picture of you, and how there are all these different components that make you you, and you don't want to leave out anything really important, they're saying, go ahead and let us know what are those important things that aren't elsewhere in the application. Second, like we did with the BBs exercise, where we thought about activities or ways we spend our time and what we did and the problems we solved. And then the middle category, is the lessons we learned. Perhaps there are obstacles that you came across in your life that you have encountered from which you learned lessons, and that was fundamental to your later success. Then they're inviting you to recount a time when you faced a challenge or a setback or a failure, how it affected you, and what you learned from the experience. All right. Next, it talks about reflecting on a time when you challenged or questioned a belief or an idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? That might be something also that would be within your BBs already. Maybe there's something that you were doing where you were protesting, or you were changing a policy at school or in an organization you're part of, and you can talk about what you did and what you learned and what the outcome was, what the impact was. Here's another one. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? You might be tempted in that one to write about someone in your family or a friend or a mentor or a teacher, and have most of the essay be focused on them. And I'll say that that is not what colleges and universities are hoping for. They say repeatedly that they don't want an essay about your grandmother. It's fine to mention your grandmother. It's very no problem to talk about the lessons that you learned from your grandmother, but they want to hear how you have experienced those lessons, what you've done with those lessons, okay? Here's another one. Discuss an accomplishment, an event, or a realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. That's, again, could be in your BBs already, or it could be something that you are thinking more about today. Finally, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? That is a great topic that is likely to come up in other supplemental essays as well for particular schools, for the University of California. So it's definitely something, that idea about, kind of what floats your boat as you are, as a thinker, as a curious person, as a learner, that is definitely something to think about. I didn't say at the beginning of this, but I hope you are taking some notes about what ideas you might have in response to any of these prompts. And as we go on today, we're going to do lots of brainstorming, and all of it is focused on, coming up with some ideas that you might want to explore for potential personal statement topics or structures going forward. So the final common application prompt is share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So I am leaning toward, all of these 6 prior prompts feed into, for me, in my thinking, this 7th one, where you're going to create one that works for you, that tells the stories that you need to tell about who you are. And the workshop today and the workbook gives you a structure for potentially doing that. Please, I invite you now to stand up, shake, do whatever you need to do. We're going to go into a different phase. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to put them in the chat privately or publicly, or let me know right now. Any questions about these prompts? All right, we are going to head into the brainstorming. So those of you who are in a place where you can get your writing implements out, get your workbook open if you have it, or get your pen and paper out. We are going to now do about a half an hour of brainstorming exercises. We'll try to keep it light and fun and relatively quick, but I invite you at any time to send me a chat or to unmute and let me know that you need more time on that one, because everybody it's all good. Just let me know what you need. Okay, so we're going to go into doing a series of brainstorming exercises that are meant to get at some ideas that might be useful for coming up with personal statement topics or things to include in a personal statement. Okay, so the first one, and I know I am a kind of person who's like, oh, seriously, when a teacher offers these kinds of activities, but I'd like you to try to suspend disbelief and go with it. Try to let your creative juices flow. Try to let your pen stay on the paper. Just keep writing. Don't censor yourself. No, there are no stupid ideas. There are no stupid brainstorms. This is just get out whatever idea it is. Silly is no problem. Okay. So the first one is called I Love, I Know. So it should be in your workbook. I know the values exercise shows up before this section, but let's see. This one is on page, I think page 5 of the workbook. It says 9 short brainstorming exercises, and here it is, number 1. All right, so I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute. And during that 1 minute, I would like you to, um, make a list of all of the random things you love. It doesn't matter, don't censor this, okay? They could be, um, it could be lots of different things. Like, I love the ocean. I love the way clean laundry smells. I love winning an argument. I love certain foods. I love certain drinks. I love certain people. It can be all sorts of things. Okay. Any questions before we get started with? All right, here we go. Here's your minute. Go. I love. All right. Switching into 1 more minute. Here's your list about things you know a lot about. Like, I know a lot about, excuse me, I know a lot about, it says board games or World War II history or constructed languages or playing the piano or making crudité or playing a certain sport, whatever it is. What do you know a lot about? Here's 1 minute. Go. All right. Okay. If anybody wants to share privately or publicly something that you love or something that you know something about, I'd be glad to hear that. All right. Next one is, if you really knew me. If you downloaded the the workbook before today, then it might not be in there, but the one that is that I just sent a link to today, it has that in there as exercise number 2. And here it is, if you really knew me. So in your workbook or on your paper or in your notes app, wherever you are right now, please, in the next minute, write what people would know about you if they really knew you.
Oh, hey. I actually did have a question about the comment app prompts.
Perfect.
Uh, would you recommend
Yep.
that we don't do any of the first 6 ones? Or if we want to do one of the first 6 ones, would you recommend that? Or
I
because you
would
were talking
recommend,
about
let's
how,
do this workshop. Yep.
okay,
Let, let's do this workshop and then decide, unless you've already done one. So then we can talk about it. But I think
okay,
after we do this workshop, you'll see that that Yeah, you'll see which direction you want to
Okay.
head. Okay,
Okay.
awesome. That's a really great question. Thank you for asking it. Thanks for speaking up. Um, I'm going to start the clock again on if you really knew me. What would people know about you if they really knew you? Right. Anybody else have a question or a comment or something to share about I know I love, or if you really knew me? All right, what we're doing here is trying to do some brainstorming that gets our heads around what possible topics might we want to write about? What prompts might we want to write about, right? So if some of those 1 through 6 spoke to you, maybe they'll be finding their way into some of these brainstorming exercises that we're doing. Next up is the essence object exercise. I believe it's number 3, but it used to be number 2. So if your workbook is misnumbered, no worries. Just find the one that says essence objects exercise and let's do it. So let's imagine that you've got a box of essence objects, but this box is so big that it's the size of the universe, so you don't have to filter yourself. Anything can fit in this box. Everything that's in this box is of essence to you. It represents an important relationship or an important quality of your life, of your experience. And so, what I'd like you to do is be considering those. Here are some examples, but I'm also, after this, going to ask you a series of questions while you're writing to prompt your mind about it. Okay, so when I did it, if I thought of the things that are most important to me that shed light on the pieces of me that I would want to share, I can have in my box my e-bike, my electric bike, the leash for my dog, the key to my electric car, my Fisk Guide to Colleges book, of course, not the online version, my food scale, the stole that I wore at graduation from University of Washington, my trusty water bottle that my son Gibson gave me because it lets me drive him to and from school and still drink. And I also have a trusty old Nalgene that I carry with me whenever I'm hiking. There would be a photograph from a family photo shoot. There would be a beloved songbook because I love to sing. I'm a super big walker, and so a pair of walking shoes would be in there. And there would be my favorite navy blue hiking shirt. So these are my essence objects, or some of them that I would bring forward. And so what we're going to do is try to have you think about what your essence objects are. It can help you generate a menu of topics or add texture and details to your personal statement to make it unique to you. All right, so we're going to spend at least 5 minutes naming at least 10 essence objects. Okay, I'm going to read a series of prompts that may or may not help you. If you really don't want to hear me talk during this time, feel free to unmute and then, to silence the audio. And then in about 5 minutes or so, turn it back on. All right, so we're going to try to find at least 10 essence objects. These are tangible things that represent memories, moments, relationships, or values that are important to you. If you can, briefly say why each one is meaningful to you. Okay, so here we go. If you've got your pen on your paper or your fingers on your keyboard or your finger on your phone, here we go. 20 questions to help you brainstorm. What is an object that reminds you of home? What is an object that makes you feel safe? What is a food that reminds you of your family? What object represents a challenge you have faced? What's a dream or a goal you have for the future? Is there an object you can think of that's tied to that dream or that goal you have for the future? What's something about you that surprises people? Is there an object tied to that surprising thing about you? Who are you with, and what are you doing when you feel most like yourself? That time when you're most like yourself, who are you with? What are you doing? You can get specific if you could think of objects that might be tied to that. What brings you joy? Are there some objects tied to that? Even if you're not in your bedroom right now, what's hanging on your bedroom walls? What's around on your bedroom walls or on the surfaces in your bedroom? All right, what's something you're proud of? Is there anything, an object that connects to that thing that you're proud of? What's an object that reminds you of something that still feels unresolved in your life? What's an object that represents something you do know now that you did not know 5 years ago? What's something that you know now that you didn't know? And what's an object connected to that? What action or gesture represents love to you? Is there an object connected to that? What do you like to do that does not involve technology? Is there an object connected to that? Okay, thinking of objects that have been important to you in your life so far, what's the most, or which of those or might you save for your child to see or touch or experience someday? Okay, let's talk food. What is the most memorable meal you've eaten or made. What was in it? What are some objects associated with that meal? All right, let's go to your backpack or your sports bag or whatever bag that you carry with you regularly. What's in it? Is there anything that's always in there? Anything that's super important to you in there? What do you carry with you wherever you go? What do you like to collect? What have you kept from a trip? And what is something that people associate with you? Is there an object or a series of objects or something that's associated with you in people's minds? Okay, I'm going to let you have one more minute to think about if there are any other essence objects that would be in your universe size box of essence objects. All right, we're going to be heading now to a similar yet different exercise called random questions. So I'm going to do a similar thing where I ask you these questions while you're writing. And so I'll put in the chat in case someone did turn off their audio that we're going to start the next one. And you can find this in your workbook. Exercise number 4, it should be. If it's not, it's the one about random questions. So get ready again. You might need to shake out your arms, shake out your fingers, shake your head, get ready. I'm going to read these out loud, but again, you can mute me and you can skip around if these, you don't have to do things in any particular order. You don't have to answer every question. If one you don't like it, just wait for the next one or move on to the next one. They're right there in your workbook and they're also here on the screen. All right, here we go. We talked about what superpowers we would like. What are your actual superpowers, or what is your superpower? And as you're writing, just try not to let your fingers stop writing. Just keep writing whatever ideas are coming to you. There's no bad idea. Just keep it up. What's your favorite story to tell? Who tells that story? Just you, or are there other people around you who you tell that with? What traditions have been passed down in your family? What are some family traditions that are important to you, or even just not important, right? It's just what your family does. What, if anything, feels perfect about your life? Let's think about forgiveness. When's a time that you forgave someone or you were forgiven for something? All right, let's think about learning a little bit. What's a class you would love to take, even if no class exists like this? I'm not talking about a high school class, any kind of class you'd like to take, something you'd love to learn more about. All right, when in life have you, I skipped something. So, um, how do you make people laugh? So, ha 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 ha. How do you make people laugh? When in life have you felt most alone? What is your biggest secret? Is there something you would tell your younger self? If the zombie apocalypse came tomorrow, what particular skill would you use to survive? What is your zombie apocalypse super skill? A few more here. What does your inner voice tell you? What does that still small voice inside you tell you? All right. Just like we thought about what's perfect about your life, now what's missing from your life? Anything missing? Is there something you could never give up? Is there one thing that you wake up in the middle of the night worrying about? Maybe that thing's over today. Is there anything you feel like you're hiding from your friends, from your family, from your teachers, from people you know? What are you hiding? We thought about how you make people laugh. What makes you laugh? Who makes you laugh? And in this moment, what are you ready to let go of? Let it go. Try to be specific there. There are specific things you're ready to let go of. In general, great essays have lots of specificity in them. So as specific as you can be as we're going forward. Okay, another few minutes. I think each of you had an opportunity to, no, not all of you did. So those of you who haven't had a chance to do this values exercise, I'm going to have you just start on it right now while I'm talking. The idea is to look over the values on the list, and in the workbook, it's at the before the exercises start on page 4. I think there is a values exercise sheet with all the list of all sorts of words that could be values, and you can always add your own. And the goal is to identify first your top 10, then select from those top 10, 5, and then from those 5, 3. Because ideally we were wanting to have 3 values that you want to make sure permeate or are visible in all of the components of your application to college, or at least the 5 or 10, right? Okay. So I'm going to go on, but keep working on that one if it's one that you haven't done. If it is one that you've done, you might need to refresh. What were those things that I said last time I was doing it? Are they still true for me today? And if you'd like to put them in private or public chat right now, what your top 3 values are, or even what your 10 or what your 5 are, I'd be glad to know. For me lately, they've been authenticity, joy, and equity. I also am a big fan of vulnerability, curiosity, cooperation, collaboration, personal development. These are things for me. I wonder what they are for you. Okay, I don't think that was enough time. So if you haven't done this before, feel free to pause the video, or if you're with me in live action, feel free to keep going and skip this next one. And I'm going to go on, but you're welcome to stick with that values one. All right, exercise 6 is career. So you may or may not have thought of something that you might like to do in the future. This is, take a stab if you haven't thought of anything. If you have, pick your favorite one or the one that's on your mind today. So, you can do several. So name at least one career. Like in this example, it's entrepreneur. So something that you're interested in. And then I invite you to name 4 to 7, 2 to 3, some number of qualities and values that you possess that will make you great in that career or those careers. So as an entrepreneur, it'll help that I've got some creativity, a sense of inclusion and fun. I'm really very capable of being autonomous. I'm really very passionate about helping others. I'm adaptable. And I tend to be productive and focused on doing and getting things done. So that works for me. How about you? Let's do a minute on this. If you've got more than one, go for it. All right. Next up, we're going to take a break in just a few minutes, very, very soon. Okay. So next up, we've got identity. Okay. So, lots of different ways that we can identify. And you'll see on the slide, if you are just listening to me, you might want to bring up the slide, and you can see that there's a table there that has the words place, action, interest, and circumstance. And as I think about it, there are lots of different identities that I have, and they tend to fall in different categories, like identities related to place, where I live, where I find myself, or my actions, my interests, and my circumstances. So I'm a reader, I'm a tea drinker, I'm a bike rider, I'm a walk lover, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a singer-songwriter lover, I'm a cisgendered woman, I'm a bi-coastal adult, I'm a singer, I'm a feminist, etc. And so I invite you to consider those categories of your life and name as many identities as you claim, Or it could be communities that you're part of, right? Like a bus riding community or a high school community or a sport playing community or a book loving community or a family community. So thinking about identities or communities that you're part of, think about ones that are particularly important to you or maybe ones that cause you to struggle a bit, what's been challenging about it. So feel free to write the name of it, but also just a little more detail if you'd like. My examples are on the screen, but I invite you now to take a minute and write about identities that you are part of. Would anyone like more time on that one? Okay, well, you may or may not have finished during that minute. It might be even a 5 minuter, right? There might be lots of different identities that you could write about. It took me more than a minute to fill out the template that you see there. I'm going to go on, but I'd be glad to give you more time if you speak up and let me know, or chat me and let me know, or okay, we're going to go on. Okay. Connected to this, I think I put home next, so let's put home. Let's do home. So thinking about your identity and your community, this next one too. Home. Where's one place that you feel most like yourself? Or where do you find flow? For me, it might be out on a walk or in the kitchen, playing games with my family, singing with friends. Other examples are maybe for you when you're and you're taking photographs. Name as many different things as you can think of. Or if home is hard for you to define, free write for a bit about why home is hard for you to define. Okay, go for that. All right, and last one for now. There, of course, are more brainstorming things we could do, but last one we're going to do right now is identifying your islands of personality. So no doubt you are of the age that you've seen that Pixar film Inside Out, and we're going to watch a little clip from that. And looks like the wrong one is loaded up. So we're going to load it up now.
And each core memory powers a different aspect of Riley's personality. Like Hockey Island. Goofball Island is my personal favorite.
Come back here, you little monkey!
Yep, Goofball is the best. Friendship Island is pretty good too. Oh, I love Honesty Island. And that's the truth. And of course, Family Island is amazing. The point is,
Oops. That's it.
Hey, I'm liking this new view.
Friendship Island's expanded. Glad they finally opened that friendly argument.
Okay. Oh gosh, hold on. Where is it? Lost screens. Okay. Hello. Oh, there it is.
Peter!
Okay. Thank you for humoring me. All right. Great. So I think it's probably obvious, and you can go ahead and get started if you want to. What are some islands of your personality? Do you have a friendship island? Do you have an honesty island? Do you have a hockey island? Do you have, islands that you saw there? Or maybe you have a parent island? No, you probably don't have that one. Do you have a white ally wannabe island like I do? Or do you have a new dog mama island? Or do you have a music island, singer island? Do you have a food recovery island? Do you have a college applicant island? What are your islands of your personality? Write as many as you can think of, as many different sides of you as you possibly can. Islands of personality. What's on that island, right? What are the parts of it? What's there, right? If it's Family Island or if it's Honesty Island, like obviously there was a scene that she was thinking of from Honesty Island. What is the scene that you're thinking of on your island? All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And so if you want to keep working on that, you're totally welcome to. If there are any of the other brainstorming exercises that you didn't feel like you got to finish, you're welcome to work on it during the break, but you're also welcome to stand up and take care of whatever needs you have. Or, I know some of us are not in a place like that, but wherever you are, or feel free to pause the video if you're doing this at home and take care of what you need. And let's come back at 15 minutes after the hour, and I'll stick around if anybody has any questions or particular things they want to talk about. We have finished our brainstorming section for now, and we're going to go on to the section on the structure of personal statements. All right, so we're heading back. We did a bunch of different brainstorming exercises to try to get at some different ideas of things that you might like to include in your story about yourself and your personal statement, because it can kind of awkward to talk about yourself, right? To write about yourself, and it's hard to choose what am I supposed to include. So hopefully all of those different exercises gave you some ideas, some food for thought, some examples, some key pieces that you might want to build on, or just include randomly. You'll see in the next example essays that it doesn't always have to be completely a beautiful 3 to 5 paragraph essay with evidence where everything fits beautifully together. It can be a hodgepodge of things, kind of like you might have at the end of those brainstorming exercises. So we're going to head now into sharing with you 2 different structures that you might consider when you're writing a personal statement. One is the narrative structure, and the other is the montage structure. Narrative might be what you've always been thinking of when you hear of a college essay that you're supposed to write about, some big challenge that you've overcome, or some big trip you went on, some big moment in your life, what led up to that, then the climax, the conflict, then the resolution, kind of like a narrative story that you might write in school. And so, yes, that's what a narrative structure would be. And it typically works very, very well if you've got a real challenge that you've overcome in your life. And if that's what you most want to write about, then narrative is the best structure. It includes cause and effect. It has a logical sequence in chronological order. Typically, one moment leads to the next. First this, then this, then this, then this. And as I say, it's really great if you have a very big challenge that you've overcome. That's a great structure. But if you don't have a very big challenge that you've overcome in your life, then montage might be the structure that fits you best. And it's not a structure that we typically learn about in school. You do see a lot of it in film, in all sorts of, I'm just thinking, right, like in TikTok, in YouTube videos, all sorts of different ways that we're communicating these days have more of a montage approach. So what is that? Well, you find a common theme. So a thread that ties everything together. And so all of the moments that you share in your story connect under a common idea or a common theme. But it gives you more freedom to jump around in time. You don't have to have things be in chronological order, first this, then this, then this. And it's a structure that you can use if you're not focusing on just one challenge in your life, but rather are trying to give the puzzle pieces of you kind of picture. So let's head into montage structure first, since I believe that everybody could do a montage structure. Many people can do narrative, but most everyone can for sure do montage. What is a montage structure? It's a technique that involves creating a whole piece, a whole picture puzzle from separate fragments, be they pictures, words, music clips, phrases. Yeah. And in filmmaking, the montage effect condenses space and time so information can be delivered more efficiently, right? Like this image on the screen. All of those images together in one view, you see like the whole life, right? All the important scenes from that person's life. That's a montage right there. A few images tell the whole story. Okay, so you can use that technique for your essay. Again, the purpose of a montage essay is to help colleges know the things they want to know about you. What are your skills? What qualities particularly define you? What values do you have? What interests do you have? And how will you bring those things to their campus? The montage structure can help you show several different sides of yourself by connecting them with one common theme. So why do we want to choose a focusing theme? Well, it makes it easier to bring it all together for the reader to see how things fit together. and it helps you organize, right? Because you just can't discuss every single aspect of your life. You can, however, show a few important points through that single lens, that single common theme. There is an image that I find very, very helpful. Ooh, and I meant to be wearing my necklace. But if you think of the montage essay as a bracelet or a necklace that has a one thread or string or chain, and then 4 to 7 beads on that chain or that thread, and each of those beads is an example or a scene or an image from that common theme or thread. That is the perfect metaphor for a montage essay. That is what you're trying to create. You need a variety of skills, qualities, values, interests, images, etc. that you want to show, some stuff to write about, like all that stuff that you just created in your brainstorming exercises. And then you want something that connects them all, the thread, the theme, the chain that brings all of those things together. So let's see if in this example essay, we can think of what is the common thread, what is the common theme. Then think, what are the beads on the chain? What are the beads on the thread? So first, what is the thread? Then what are the beads on the thread? And then see if you can spot elements of this essay that make it a really great college essay, showcasing this former student's values, their insight, vulnerability, right, where they open themselves up and admit that they're not perfect all the time, and their craft, that they've paid attention to the quality of their writing. Okay, so I'm going to read it out loud and you listen, and you can, if you have it on the screen, you can be reading along and be looking for those things. Again, we're looking for the common thread and the beads in the necklace of this essay. I am Mexican. The sound of frying empanadas and the smell of burning peppers, my mother calling me mi vida, and my relatives kissing my cheek, running but never hiding from the dreaded chancla, and always responding with muy bien, ¿y tú? Childhood vacations to Puebla and Cancun, swimming in the ocean and playing in the sand, the need to be good at cross country, feeling the need to be able to endure spicy. Those are all me. Okay, that's the first part. Then, I am Chinese. The utter preference for using chopsticks in every scenario, and the unhealthy craving for rice with every meal, the sharing of every dish placed on the center turntable, hot pot for celebration, and tea eggs of all things as a favorite dish. My father's musical Cantonese conversations with my grandparents and their constant inquiry asking, how's school? Being named after the dragon for strength and living for 3 years in Shanghai. Then the constant pressure to get good grades and my father's desire for me to become a doctor, and the never ending, how are you so bad at math? You're Asian? Those are all me. Further, I'm an American, a citizen with the freedom to vote, the freedom to speak my mind, and the representation by all the cultures and countries of the world. Shopping sprees at Target and a constant diet of fast foods, full acceptance of the consumer society, and a rather unhealthy addiction to social media and technology. Going to football games on Friday nights and watching Netflix on Saturday nights. Always watching my weight, always looking at others, always wishing, always wanting for more. Those are all me. I'm Catholic. Sunday mornings always spent at church, the private Catholic middle and high schools, each with masses for special occasions, baptism, Eucharist, and confirmation, praying before each meal and saying, go away in the name of Jesus to nighttime horrors, theology classes and realizing there's so much more to religion than faith, having something to believe in, questioning what you believe in, turning to God when I see the horrors in the world and getting no response. Those are all me. I am homosexual, an unusual obsession with fashion and clothing, watching Game of Thrones, not for Daenerys or Cersei, but for Jon Snow and Jaime, seeing Love Simon for the first time and crying at least 5 times, always conscious, always thinking before talking, going to an all-boys school, dealing with gay being the go-to expression for displeasure, being called faggot when I act gay, fear of my parents finding out. Those are all me. I am Jonathan K. Lung Ing. I love reading and I am addicted to fan fiction. I have 3 siblings and I love my 2 dogs more than anything in the world. I can't eat spicy food and I have the biggest sweet tooth. I play League of Legends and soccer. I'm a Marvel geek and a theater nerd. My friends call me Jenga. My teammates call me Jeng. My teachers call me Mr. Eng. I am Mexican, I am Chinese, I am American, I am Catholic, I am gay. I am all of this and more, and most of all, I am me. My identity is not a singular entity, but a conglomeration of experiences, beliefs, and origin. This is my identity. This is me. Whoops. So I invite you to reflect. What did you find successful? What did you find problematic? What evidence did you find of values, of craft, of vulnerability, of insight in this sample essay, This Is Me, by Jonathan, former student? Anybody want to chat about that or go unmute and share? Or what did you find to be the common thread or the chain? And what are the examples or the beads along that chain? Okay, well, for me, the common thread is that refrain of "this is me," right? And so it's really very simple. It's like the simplest identity montage essay there could be. It's just that me is the common theme and all the different ways that I identify or that Jonathan identifies. And each of the beads are the different identities that he has: the Mexican, Chinese, American, Catholic, gay, and then all these other things that he loves, right? That he's looking forward to doing in college or the next thing that he is, okay? So, in his montage essay, he had a common thread. He had beads or examples. He connected it to values. And he did a lot of free writing, it seems to me, a lot of brainstorming, and came up with this. But then he also had a lot of craft. He kept reiterating similar lines: this is me, I am, right? And so he brought us back. It was a structured experience. You knew kind of what to expect. You got into the flow. So there's the craft. Definitely had vulnerability, like he's coming out to us as readers in a way that he's not even out to his friends and family. You don't have to be, that vulnerable if, it's really not required, but that's just an example. Anything anybody wants to say about this? Pretty different from your average 3 to 5 paragraph essay in English class, am I right? All right, so that's montage. Now let's look at the narrative structure. A narrative structure recommend to have at least a third of it, about this kind of portioning. A third of it on the challenge you faced and the effects that the challenge had. The next third is what you did about it. And the final third is what you learned from it or how to apply that learning in the rest of life, maybe at college, career, beyond. Okay, so that's a narrative structure. If you're drawn to that, let's keep going. There is a brainstorming exercise that I would ask you to do if you're planning to do a narrative structure. That's in your workbook. In your workbook on page, after the montage is over, after page 17, yeah, it's all the way on page 20, is this feelings and needs exercise. So if you're like, I really want to do a big challenge, then I invite you to do this. Thinking about your challenges, the effects, the feelings you experienced, the needs you were trying to solve, and what you did about it. And in the slides, if you're looking just at the just at the workbook, do pull up the slides, because there's one of those handy lists of all the different feelings you might have been feeling or the needs you might have been solving for. And so here's an example of somebody who did face a very big challenge and wrote an essay based on that, where the first third was about the challenge and the effects. The second third, I'm wanting to go back and look at that, was what he did about it. And the third last part was what he learned from it and where he wants to go next with that. So here is an example. What had to be done is this essay and by another former student. Here we go. You're looking for evidence of craft, of vulnerability, of insight, and of skills and qualities. So here we go. At 6 years old, I stood locked away in the restroom. I held tightly to a tube of toothpaste because I had been sent to brush my teeth to distract me from the commotion. Regardless, I knew what was happening. My dad was being put under arrest for domestic abuse. He had hurt my mom physically and mentally, and my brother Jose and I had shared the mental strain. It's what had to be done. Living without a father meant money was tight. Mom worked 2 jobs, and my brother and I took care of each other when she worked. For a brief period of time, the quality of our lives slowly started to improve as our soon-to-be stepdad became an integral part of our family. He paid attention to the needs of my mom, my brother, and me. I'd like to pause here because I'm having a thought. That first essay, did you notice I forgot to mention that a lot of the quote unquote sentences were actually phrases. They didn't have a subject and a verb. They were kind of like a list of bullet points put into a paragraph, and that was the style, that was the craft. But not every montage essay has to be that way. You can have a montage essay that has sentences. So just because this narrative essay has sentences and the montage doesn't have as many sentences, I just don't want you to get that idea that it's one or the other, okay? So, but this one is having very lovely sentences and we're following along with the story, and I'm sorry to interrupt. All right, so he was 6, he's in the restroom, he's living without his father, he got a stepfather, and his stepfather started paying attention to his mom and his brother and to the author. But our prosperity was short-lived as my stepdad's chronic alcoholism became more and more recurrent. When I was 8, my younger brother, Fernando, his birth complicated things even further. As my stepdad slipped away, my mom continued working and Fernando's care was left to Jose and me. I cooked, Jose cleaned, I dressed Fernando, Jose put him to bed. We did what we had to do. There's some craft, that repeating statement. And as undocumented immigrants with little to no family around us, we had to rely on each other. Fearing that any disclosure of our status would risk deportation, we kept to ourselves when dealing with any financial and medical issues. I avoided going on certain school trips, and at times I was discouraged to even meet new people. I felt isolated and at times disillusioned. My grades started to slip. Okay, so challenge, and now even more challenge, but there are some things, some effects, right? Things that he did, what he did about it. Okay, so here's more what he did about it. Over time, however, I grew determined to improve the quality of life for my family and myself. Without a father figure to teach me the things a father could, I became my own teacher. I learned how to ride a bike, how to swim, and even how to talk to girls. I became resourceful, fixing shoes with strips of duct tape, and I even found a job to help pay bills. I became as independent as I could to lessen the time and money Mom had to spend raising me. I also worked to apply myself constructively in other ways. I worked hard and took my grades from B's and C's to consecutive straight A's. I shattered my school's 100-meter breaststroke record and learned how to play the clarinet, the saxophone, and the oboe. Plus, I not only became the first student in my school to pass the AP Physics 1 exam, I'm currently pioneering my school's first AP Physics 2 course ever. So these are some things he did about it. These changes inspired me to help others. More what he did about it. And actually what he learned from it and what he's going to do next. I became president of the California Scholarship Federation, providing students with information to prepare them for college while creating opportunities for my peers to play a bigger part in our community. I began tutoring kids, teens, and adults on a variety of subjects ranging from basic English to home improvement and even calculus. As the captain of the water polo and swim team, I have led practices crafted to individually push my comrades to their limits, and I've counseled friends through circumstances similar to mine. I have done tons, and I can finally say I'm proud of that. But I'm excited to say that there's so much I have yet to do. I haven't danced the tango. I haven't solved a Rubik's cube or explored how perpetual motion might fuel space exploration or seen the World Trade Center. And I have yet to see the person who Fernando will become. I'll do as much as I can from now on, not because I have to, because I choose to. Okay. So that's that narrative structure essay. Did you see evidence of challenges and effects? What he did about it? What he learned? Did you see evidence of values, craft, insights, vulnerability? Okay. I know it's late in the day. Well, yes, right? There's lots of examples of all of that. He definitely kept coming back to it's what had to be done. And then in the end, it's not doing what he has to do, it's what he chooses to do. And that's the kind of arc of the beginning, middle, and end. He introduces a challenge. He talks about the effects of that challenge. He talks about what he did about it and what he learned and where he's going next. And so that's a great example. He was vulnerable with us. He shared authentically about his experience. And this is the kind of thing that works really well for a narrative structure. It's possible to not have a big challenge and have a successful narrative structure to your essay. But I want you to know that this is an outstanding person, right? Like for sure. I don't know if you feel like you've done all of those things. I certainly haven't. But there are kids who have, and this kind of structure is well suited to their story. And if you don't feel like there's something that works well for you, that you don't have a big challenge like this that you have overcome that you want to write about, maybe montage structure fits well for you. And there might be a narrative structure that works well for you, a challenge you've overcome. So what we want to do is then share some ideas about your topics and share them with your counselor, get some feedback on it, okay? So that we can talk about which topic really to choose. And when we're thinking about choosing a topic, we're going to think about one that is stretchy and, oops, I guess I don't have a slide about this. It has a lot to it, right? Like there are many different examples that you can give for that topic. So that would be a great topic. And one that has a little bit of an uncommon approach. It's like just you could have written it. If all of the papers got dropped onto the floor, somebody could pick yours up and read it, and if they knew something about you, they would know which one was yours, right? So we want a topic that has the capacity to expand, to have lots of different possibilities of directions to go in, like the I am me theme. That topic had lots of different things, right? The Mexican, the American, the Chinese, the gay, the Catholic, right? There were many different directions he could go in. And the same with this challenges narrative structure. He started out with the challenge of not having a father and the challenges of his stepfather, but it went very, very wide into what he did on many levels. Yes, with his family, but also with school and with his career. It had lots of stretch to it. So that's what we're looking for. So these slides are an analysis that might help you look at the challenges that he introduced, the effects, the feelings, the needs that he was trying to solve for, and then what he did about it. And so he wrote out all of those things. This was the brainstorming that he did. And then he got to his essay. And so that's what you guys are going to do, is think about whether montage or narrative might fit you best. And you're going to be able to finish any brainstorming exercises you have, and then outline 2 to 3 possible topics for your selected structure, and then submit those to your counselor for a check or review to think about which of the topics is stretchy and uncommon a little bit, and which might be the best to try a first draft of. And then we'll go into how to do that. Let's look at first some ways to outline, and then we'll go back. Right. Okay. So before we go into that though, I'm just wondering if people could private or publicly chat me. What are you thinking at this point, given all the brainstorming exercises that we've done, given looking at the first sample essay of the I am me montage structure, and then looking at the second what had to be done narrative structure essay, knowing that there are lots of different ways to do it and lots of different topics, what are you thinking at this point? Are you thinking to try montage first or narrative first? What are you thinking? Okay, well, let's say you're choosing montage, okay? So in your workbook, back in the pages about the montage structure, which starts on page 10, there are some tables that you can use to consider how you might outline a montage structure exercise. So you're looking through all your brainstorming and you're coming up with what might be a theme or a topic or a thread that I might be able to pull out of these brainstorming exercises, or whatever else I've already done when I'm thinking about my college essay. What might be some possible topics? And you could create a table like this, or use the ones that are in your workbook. Put a potential topic, like let's see, there's one in the examples in the workbook, there's one about laptop stickers on page 12. So this person did the essence objects exercise, and they looked at their laptop and they had stickers on their laptop that were representing different parts of their life. And so laptop stickers is there. And then the examples or the things that they were talking about were different stickers that they had. And so they list those down in the examples, like the common thread sticker, the poop emoji sticker, the LOL, you're not Harry Styles sticker, the catapult sticker, the thank God it's Monday sticker. And they didn't do this, but you can write even more about that if you want to in your examples, like details that are connected to it, where you got it, who it came from, whatever it is that's important to you about it, you could put in your examples. And then they listed their the values that they see as tied to each of those stickers or those examples. And then in the notes, it could be insights, it could be more details about it, could be so what about it. And then later, this topic, stretchy, uncommon, yes or no, that's for later, right? Like when you've gotten it all out, you've brainstormed it, and then you think like, is this the one I want to do? Does it have possibilities for being a full essay? I want you to do at least 2 to 3 of these kinds of outlines so that you can have some different choices. A lot of times our first idea is a great idea and it might end up being part of the final, but a lot of times it's like our best idea is still to come. So do at least 2 to 3 before you submit. There's also on the previous page an example of how Jonathan, who wrote that I Am Me montage essay, might have structured his outline, right? With the Mexican, Chinese, American, Catholic, and gay examples of identity, and then the details that are associated with each of those things. And so if you want to change anything about these sample tables, go for it, whatever works for you to help organize. But the big idea is to have a common thread, some key beads or examples, and if possible, values that are tied to each of those examples. All right. Any questions about how to do a montage outline? All right, here's one more example because I felt like it was good to see this because it was the same, like with the example coming first and then the value, and then notes could be insights, could be ahas, could be more details about the thing. This is somebody who was doing a food essay, and some examples were scenes from their upbringing that was like the finish your ribs story. So there's some story about finish your ribs that shows determination. Okay, and so you do an outline and then submit it for review. Like, I'm sorry, you do 2 to 3 different outlines of 2 to 3 different topics and then submit it for review to your counselor, either Sarah or to me. And you can also ask for feedback from other folks. In your workbook is a something to ask people for feedback, and it's also going to be in an upcoming slide. But you want to get some feedback on your topics and topic selection before you go on to drafting, okay? So after you've chosen one of the topics to try for a draft, you're gonna take that, you're gonna start out with a very simple, clear opening. Doesn't have to be fancy or a hook or anything like that, just like, you know, stating kind of even like, I am me, I have lots of parts of me, okay? And then the next 4 to 7 paragraphs are the examples and the details with values, okay? The examples, details, and values in each of those paragraphs, like the Mexican paragraph, the Chinese paragraph, the Catholic paragraph, etc. And then you have an ending to wrap it up for now. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just get something down on paper. And then you shoot off your first draft back to me or to Sarah or to whoever is working with you on this. All right. Now, if you were going to do a narrative structure, you would do similar to the outline for montage in that you plan out your flow before you do all the writing, okay? And with narrative, it's very much about bullets, right? Like, what were the challenges? What were the effects of that challenge? Bullet all those out. Brainstorm, brainstorm, brainstorm. What did you do about it? What are the key verbs that you did? Boom, 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 boom. Then, what did I learn? Again, bullet, 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 bullet. That bulleted list of challenges and effects, what I did about it, what I learned, each of those things being about a third of the essay, is the outline that you need. And then send that to Sarah or send that to me. and we'll get some feedback. Again, probably want to do 2 to 3 different possible topics or outlines, and then get some feedback, and then start on that first draft using the outline bulleted list. Just write an outline, boom, 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 a third, a third, a third. So you could, when you are submitting for feedback, the kinds of questions that I'm going to be thinking about as a reviewer and that I think you could be thinking about, like here's the rubric for the college essay outline. You can do this yourself. You can, this is what your reviewers can do. You can ask your parents, you can ask your friends, you could ask a teacher. Is it clear what my topic is? If it's a montage, right? Is it clear what the theme is? Is it clear what the thread on the necklace is? Are the examples in each paragraph strong and specific and visual? The more specificity, the more you can imagine what you're saying, the better the experience is for the reader. Do a values scan. Is it clear what the values are that I'm trying to show in each paragraph? And do you spot at least 2 to 3 insights or moments where the writer, author answered kind of, so what, right? Like, why do we care about this as the reader? Why do you care about it as the writer? So similarly for the narrative, you'd be asking yourself these things. Is it clear what your challenges are? Is it clear what the effects are? Is it clear what I did to overcome the challenges? Is it clear what I learned from these experiences? And this, of course, you will not get yeses to all of these things in your first draft. And so over time, over perhaps 4 or 5 drafts, we'll get to an essay that you feel awesome about, that you're ready to submit. And you might have heard me say 4 or 5 drafts and gone, what? I don't want to do 4 or 5 drafts. That sounds terrible. I'll tell you, yeah, maybe you only have stamina for 2 drafts or 3 drafts. If you could find it in yourself, digging deep, to have stamina for 4 to 5 drafts, that is what it often takes to get to like that deeply authentic, vulnerable, insightful essay that is that coming of age moment that I've been telling some of you about. And so just, set your expectations. We'll work together to make it manageable for you. Yeah, so I thought you might like to have some examples. Some of us learn really well from examples. Others of us don't want to see any examples and just want to do our own thing creatively. So I did give you the 2 examples today of the montage and the narrative. If you'd like more examples of personal, Ethan Sawyer, who has collected a bunch of different examples of personal statements. Here's a link to some of those. If you Google college essay guy personal statement examples, you'll find even more. I wanted to say here that today our focus is on the personal statement that is applicable to common application schools, to coalition application schools, to schools that ask you for a statement of 500 plus words. The common application is typically 650 or fewer. But there are 2 kinds of personal statement type things that are not the same as this. If you're doing a University of California personal insight question, or you're doing the United Kingdom applications for going to school in England, those personal statements are not the same. And we will have a workshop, and you can also ask your counselor one-on-one about those. And these links here are 2 examples of those, okay? So what we've been focused on here is the Common App personal statement, either montage or narrative structure. And so your next steps are to complete the brainstorming and outlining exercises for either montage or narrative. If you didn't get to finish those exercises today, feel free to take time to finish those. You can even do it in a session with your counselor if that feels like the best way for you to do it, or you can do it, set yourself a time in the next few weeks to finish that up. Second, then I invite you to do some of that outlining like we talked about. 2 to 3 different kinds of topics that you try out based on your brainstorming exercises, based on your BBs, based on any work that you've done thinking about personal statement before. Send those outlines in for some feedback, and then choose one to try to do a first draft of, and then go through the revising and the refining process with yourself and with your counselor. Again, if you want to submit your draft outlines and your drafts from this workshop, associated with this workshop, you get a review from a counselor at 7 Points Prep and Schooling Doula of your outline and your essay, or your first draft of your essay, as long as it comes in by July 14th. We've got an application bootcamp workshop starting the week of July 18th. So we want to make sure that you are ready for that and that we are ready for that. So we would like to hear from you no later than July 14th. We'd love to hear from you, as soon as school's over or next week, whatever works for you. So I invite you in these next couple of minutes to get out your calendar and to put on your calendar when you think is realistic for you to pick up the next steps of this work of launching your personal statement. It might not be tomorrow because it's the end of school still and you've got things that you need to do to wrap that up. You might also have other college-related assignments that you're working on. When is the right time for you to pick up working on this brainstorming and outlining? Find a time and just take a stab and put that on your calendar so that you don't let it drop at this point. And if I am your counselor, feel free to text me or email me and let me know when that is. Or feel free to, at our next appointment, let's check in about that. And if you don't already have an appointment with me you'd like to have that, go ahead and schedule that. All right, I'm going to let you do that. And in general, I'm just so glad that you were here. And I hope that you will please be in touch with any feedback or any questions that you have. This is the picture of Sarah, my colleague at 7 Points Prep, if you haven't met her. And here's me, Brennan. If you haven't met me, here I am. Reach out anytime via text, via email. Book a meeting. I can, help in any way that works for you. Now, after we've done all of that, I am really interested in hearing what you're thinking about montage or narrative. What are you thinking at this point, or what questions?
Hey, I had a question.
Yeah, please.
Do you want us to send in our outlines for feedback as well as our drafts, or just the drafts?
Yes. Nope. Yes,
Okay.
I want the outlines first, actually, before you draft, if possible, because topic selection is super important. And actually, remember, one way you reminded me, Leo, of something. I don't know if you and Sarah already have a shared Google Drive folder where you share documents, but my students and I, who I work with more regularly, have a Google Drive folder that's accessible either through CounselMore or from the shared with me part of Google Drive. And so that's where it would be great to put all your outlines and drafts. I don't know, do you work with Sarah that way, Leo?
Yeah, but I don't have a folder with her yet. I need to get that squared away.
Okay, cool. The folks who are my people on here, do you guys have any questions about that? About how to share stuff with me? Okay. So Leo, since you're willing to unmute, are you thinking montage or narrative at this point?
Probably montage.
Okay. Yeah. Does it seem doable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. A lot, it's the most common way to do it these days. That number 7 prompt of putting in whatever, and doing it in a montage is like a super popular way to go. It doesn't have to be just like Jonathan's, okay? I'm not saying that you write it just like that, but that kind of idea where you have a common theme and some examples makes a lot of sense. You can also certainly do a hybrid. I mean, I know people who've done poetry, like there are a lot of different ways to do it. So I'm not here to squash your creativity. I'm just trying to give you some tools for moving forward if you'd like. So it's the end of our time. I'm happy to stay around. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much for participating. Everybody, please be in touch with me or with Sarah if you have any questions or wanting to follow up. So I'm going to stop the recording.